I'm Norm Tiedemann. I'm High Tech Kids, and I am mostly responsible for the FTC program and volunteers. Welcome to our January coach call. Hopefully to answer any questions you might have about the January tournaments. Make sure you know what all has to be done and what's going to happen, especially for new coaches. And we're just going to walk through some stuff here. If you've been around for a couple of years, as I know some of the names on the participants list have been. It's hopefully all stuff you've seen before, but for new people, please feel free to ask questions in chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question live, that is just fine too. Let's get moving on. So first of all, thank you for coaching. I have done a variety of things with High Tech Kids, volunteered, judged, refed, been a tournament director, and now an employee. I've never been a coach. So I really applaud you for doing what you do to make this program what it is. I hope to see a number of you and talk with you throughout the days of the tournaments when we get to see each other's. We also need to thank our sponsors for FTC. These are some that sponsor High Tech Kids and FTC, and really a number of these companies put a lot of money into the program that makes it affordable for teams to participate. So we really appreciate their help on that. Okay, event plan. So the biggest thing, of course, on everyone's mind, what are we doing? And for the teams that are competing this weekend, it's similar to past weekends. And for the league teams the following weekend, 22nd and 23rd, it's also similar to what you've been doing at league meets. So we're following the guidelines that the state has put together, and a lot of our host schools also have rules that we need to follow. And we follow what we need to follow to get these tournaments in person. The in-person event is really a much better experience than last year. And so we are trying all we can, of course, to keep them as in-person events. A little bit of concern about if a school district moves to remote learning, what happens with our event. I think, since we only have Burnsville left next weekend and then Elk River ahead of that we probably are past that point. But what do? Well, we don't really know yet. Anyway, coaches and teams, when you signed on, you agreed to follow the requirements as part of registering for an in-person event, and we assume that's going to continue. We really consider it kind of gracious professionalism to wear a mask and follow the rules that we in the school put down. So our mask requirements are that masks must be worn covering mouth and nose at all in-person events by participants, coaches, mentors, spectators, volunteers, and High Tech Kids employees. So pretty much anyone who is there has to follow those rules. And up till now, those have been the school rules also. Additional limitations are that the judging rooms are limited to volunteers, the team, and 2 adults. And the pits will be limited only to volunteers, the team, and the 2 adults, assuming the 2 adult coaches. Just to limit contact and limit the number of people around and just keep things a little more separated. We've done this at our past tournaments. It worked out really well. Spectators are allowed to watch the robots in the performance area. They can hang out in the common areas by the cafeteria and whatever there is for eating. And we'll, as I said, it's worked really well throughout the program for that. Yes, if you have 3 adult coaches, that's fine. In the past, we have been issuing wristbands for pit access, but I think moving forward, we're not going to do that. We're just going to rely on pit monitors and that to kind of regulate that, and for hopefully spectators to follow those rules as they are. I also have to remind you, safety glasses must be worn at all times in the pits and in the performance area. That's an FTC competition rule. And I know a lot of teams last year, being remote and working out of their basements, did not follow those rules or did not really know of those rules. Our first tournaments this year, we had a number of teams that were surprised they had to wear safety glasses everywhere. But that is a competition rule and can get you yellow cards and red cards. It's expected that all team members and coaches already own safety glasses. And because those are the only people that are really allowed in the pits area, we don't have loaner glasses this year. There's no need for them. We do have a limited number of safety glasses and side shields for sale. If a team member or coach forgot theirs or would like another pair, but really we don't have any loaner glasses because no one without them should be going in the pits. Additionally, we follow the requirements of our tournament sites. As I said, for St. Paul Public Schools, they require groups that are using their space to provide proof of vaccination or proof of negative COVID test within 1 week. This applies to our state tournament, doesn't apply to Burnsville or Elk River, the two sites we have the next 2 weekends where you'll be competing initially, but it does apply to our FTC state tournament. Now, our current understanding of that is that it only applies to High-Tech Kids staff, volunteers, and outside contractors that we bring in. It does not apply at the current time, by our understanding, to teams, coaches, or spectators. But that could change. As you know, everything changes a lot along these lines. If something like that changes, we would ask you to, read the blast that comes out and follow up. We have set up kind of a website where people can go and certify that they are fully vaccinated or that they will take a negative COVID test that we'll be using for our volunteers, and we may expand that to teams and coaches if we have to, but right now it doesn't look like we need to do that. Okay, that's what's going on at our different sites. What should you already have done? And for teams that have competed already and are just returning for a second qualifier on the 15th and 16th, this is old information, you shouldn't need it. But the league teams, you have not had to do this before and you will need to. So league coaches, pay attention. There's a demographic survey that we need you have you fill out online, just one per team. Basically team demographics, who and what you are. And we ask this not because it matters to us, but a lot of our sponsors require that information for their grants. And also this form will determine how many pins your team receives. So put down the number of students on your team. That will be the number of Freight Frenzy pins you receive. And then email address also, whatever that is, we'll use that as part of when we return the feedback forms to you electronically. Along with that, believe it or not, we found out over the summer that we are not covered, we, High-Tech Kids, are not covered by the first consent and release form that you have to fill out. So I know you have to go to the first website, to their dashboard, and fill out this consent and release and put all your team members in, and all the team members or their parents have to fill out a consent and release form. And we discovered that we're not covered by, oops, sorry, didn't mean to skip ahead, that we are not covered by that release form. So we are asking the same thing. And this is on our website. So if you go to the website in FTC, there's a required forms tab on the right side of the page. And that says, then you go there, you click on that, and it gives you all the information for doing it. And also there's a place for participants to do it along with the coach. There is a paper consent form option there where you can print it out and bring it if you need to. But hopefully this will make it easy for parents also. Parents don't need to log in or anything to this. All they have to do is click on that and agree to it and sign it. So I hope that takes care of that. One of the questions was, if you've already done a demographics form, do you need to do it again? No, only one time per season do you need to do this. So if you competed earlier or filled it out earlier, that's great. Thank you very much. Just need demographics once, and the consent and release forms obviously just once by everybody also. Okay, so that's a little bit of a change. For teams that competed last year when we were all remote, we did our team materials submitted electronically. So we had everything you put in, you submitted electronically, and we dealt with it electronically. And that seemed to work out really well, rather than having teams print out 700 pages worth of notebook for each event and bring it along and hand it in, and then we pass it around. We do it all now electronically, I know, into like the early 2000s. Isn't that great? Anyway, so you need to submit these materials electronically. The Compass and Promote Award, those were always submitted earlier, but they need to be submitted on Sunday prior to your event. So teams that are competing on the 15th, 16th, sorry, the deadline is already passed for you. For league teams, that'll be next Sunday at midnight when you need to submit Promote and Compass Awards if your team is doing that and submitting them. The engineering portfolio, the control award submission form, a link to your engineering notebook, and the first feedback request form all need to be submitted by Thursday at midnight. And we use this, the judges are given access to the folders for the teams for the tournaments they are at. We do, of course, delete all this material immediately after the tournament. And feedback forms will be filled out electronically and returned to the team via coach email. So we're doing this all electronically, but basically it's all the same that the past we've done in the past. But the deadline for submission is Thursday prior to the event, Thursday midnight. Please remember that.
Hey, could you have Daddy put Ozzy outside, please?
What was the question?
Where is he?
Okay, I will ask, there are two questions in the chat, and since they relate to this, I will go ahead and answer them here. The one question is, what if we miss the due date for the portfolio? Well, let's hope you don't miss the due date for the portfolio. If you have a portfolio now, you can submit it right now. And then if you get it updated and submit it by Thursday, great. If you don't, at least there's one there. If you truly don't get it submitted by Thursday, you can bring it along, but judges have been less willing to give awards to teams that submit them late. I will put it that way. It doesn't disqualify you, but it hinders you because our judges start looking at that material Friday during the day, and they're better able to interview the teams and understand what the teams are and better question and get more information from the teams. Really, the more information judges have, the better it is. And if they can look at some of this material ahead of time instead of just in the 15-minute interview, that helps them along. Is there a way, the other question was back on the consent and release form. Is there a way to know if our team members have filled out the consent and release form? Yes, you can email Bruce, just BRUCE at hightechkids.org, and he will be able to tell you how many and what team members have submitted their consent and release forms. So go ahead and ask that to Bruce, and he will be able to answer that question for you. Teams have a paper engineering notebook. Yes, they can bring that along. And actually, I'm going to get into that in just a second. So we'll move on to the next slide. For teams that haven't been around for a while, the last 2 years, or new teams, portfolio is a new judging element. I'm just going to talk about this a little bit. We've seen actually a lot of confusion on this. Yes, at the end, if no one else has, I will type out Bruce's email. A little bit of confusion on this. The portfolio is a new requirement from 2020. It was not based on changes for COVID. It actually was planned before that. It is now the primary reference for judges to understand what your team's doing. The way we think of it is your engineering notebook is really the Wikipedia of your portfolio. So if you want to dig into lots of details and stuff like that, you can do that through the engineering notebook. But the portfolio is really what the judges are looking at. If all the necessary information is in the portfolio, the notebook won't even be referenced for an award. It was just problematic for judges to look at 700 pages of notebook and pull out what's important. So you can think about this, that you should keep an engineering notebook for your team, because that is your team's journey, as they say in FIRST. It's a record of what you do, when you do it, all that kind of stuff. Just as a record for yourself, the notebook should be made. It's not required, but just as part of the team, you should keep the notebook. And then your job is to take that notebook and condense it down to 15 pages for the portfolio to show the judges what's most important for you. So what is the best part of your team? What part of it makes, the most sense for judges to know? Notebooks now don't have to have perfect formatting. In the past, people spent a lot of time making the 700-page notebook look really good. Now you don't have to. Your 15 pages should look really good, but the notebook can be in whatever format you put it together in. And that answers the one question of, if you only have a paper notebook, that's fine, bring that along. We actually recommend that you have your engineering notebook in the pit for the afternoon pit judging if you need to reference it. And that can be a paper copy, or it can be an electronic copy, but I would suggest you download it and have it on a device there, just in case there's cloud access problems. You don't want to have a judge asking you questions to refer to something in your notebook, and then you can't pull your notebook up. So yes, you should have your engineering notebook, either a single paper copy of it or electronic access to it, local electronic access to it in your pit. Absolutely. And as I said, the notebook is really only used when they want to get more information than in the portfolios. It will be a deciding factor for a number of awards like Inspire and Think, but the other awards and that are, if everything's in the portfolio, that should be really good. A couple more things, interesting quotes that I find about the notebook versus portfolio. The engineering notebook is an optional item, but is a fundamental source of information. Almost makes it seem like it's required, and it kind of is, as I said. Again, judges may ask the team to provide specific information from their engineering notebook to better understand it, and to get some details in that. And then, as I said, the engineering notebook should just be a repository for the team. What you do, outreach, fundraising, team plans, robot design, changes to your design, design thoughts, programming ideas, that kind of stuff. It can include sketches, discussions, team meetings, all that kind of stuff. And should be created just on your own. And then you condense that down to the portfolio. Okay, so you now hopefully know the difference between a portfolio and a notebook. If you've only created a 15-page notebook, then label it portfolio and submit it as a portfolio, because you cannot win an award, a judged award, without a portfolio. So the portfolio is not an optional item for awards. Okay, so team documents and submissions, how do you put these in? As I said, the Promote and Compass are due Sunday at midnight before your event, and then everything else is due Thursday at midnight preceding your event. The portfolio, 15 pages plus cover page, all that information is in the FIRST manuals for what it can be and how it can be. And that is required if you want to win an award. A portfolio is required. Something labeled portfolio that's 15 pages and has kind of maximum of 15 pages and has the items in it. Again, if you have an engineering notebook, a link to that is nice. The control award submission, which has a 2-page limit this year, a little bit different, is there. So you can't put all your code pieces in there. You need to kind of highlight and describe things. And then the judging feedback request form. As I said, this really worked out well last year to do submissions this way. And so we decided to do it in this year. Thursday at midnight, because we know teams will spend the last day putting together their notebook no matter what day it is. So this gives them Friday night to work on their robot because they've submitted this by Thursday, hopefully. Submitting is via JOT form, and the link to this is on the website and in the blast that Vicki sends out. Put in your team number, FTC team. You agree to a little acknowledgement on videos and documents and that we will share them with our volunteer officials. We don't share any of your documentation with anyone else except for the officials at that tournament. And then you submit them on the JOT form. You can drag and drop them or select them, whichever you prefer. And you will get a confirmation with that says it'll pop up at the end and say that all your submissions have been received. That's great. Okay. So you've now submitted everything. You have a robot. You're ready to go. What does a tournament look like for all you people who've never been to a live tournament? It is a long day. Starts early. Teams and coaches arrive about 7:30. Get set up in your pit areas. 8 o'clock is when robot inspections begin and judging interview sessions. And I'll talk more about these different things later on. That's done around 10 o'clock. We have a set of practice rounds, so everybody will get on the field to kind of take a practice run and do what they need to do. There's a driver's meeting at 10:30, and I'll talk about each of these elements a little bit further. And we have the opening ceremonies at 11. If you have visitors coming, probably 11 o'clock is the earliest that visitors would need to come because there's really not much to see before that. Inspections are kind of in the performance area, but your team is in there and out pretty quick. And as we said, judging sessions are closed to just the team and coaches. We start some qualification matches in the morning. We have a lunch break from 12 to 1 for everyone. Teams and officials and volunteers are all take the same break. 1 o'clock qualification matches resume, and that's when pit judging begins. So judging teams will now walk around to the different pit areas, to the different team pits, and interview teams separately about awards and about questions they have. At 3:30, about when the qualification matches are done, we have alliance selection and then semifinals and final matches. And that's a way that FTC teams, it kind of creates a head-to-head tournament with the teams at the tournament. Alliances, there are groups of teams that are selected and put together, and then they compete against each other to determine an overall alliance match winner. And then we have closing ceremonies with the award ceremony after that, and we wrap up. So it is a long day, but it goes quickly with lots of activities. All right, so let's highlight a couple of these activities during the day, just so you have a little more information on them. Judging sessions. These are your team goes into a room with 2 or 3 judges. You have 5 minutes to give a presentation. It is a maximum of 5 minutes. And our judges will be fairly strict about that because we want to have time to ask you questions, and because if you advance, the worlds will be very strict about that as well. There's then 10 minutes of questions and discussion with the judges where they will ask you about what you might have said there, what you might not have said, what they're interested that you didn't talk about. And if they have your portfolio ahead of time, of course, questions from the portfolio and things they found out in there and want to get more information on. Your judging session should always take precedence as far as timing. If things get off schedule somehow, please try and go to your judging session at the proper time. That's the most important thing. There's also robot and field inspections going on, and the schedule for these morning sessions is already online for the tournaments this coming weekend, the 15th and 16th. It'll be online probably the beginning of next week for the league tournament, the 22nd and 23rd. So robot and field inspections, two different inspections that go on. And I want to emphasize that inspectors are not looking for ways to disqualify robots. On the contrary, they're trying to make sure that your robot will qualify and will be successful, but will be safe. So truly our goal is that every robot gets to run and runs reliably throughout the day. You have to pass inspections to be able to run matches. And you do have to meet the rules and qualifications of those inspections to be able to pass inspections, to be able to run matches. But we will work very hard, our inspectors, our FTAs. We can get other teams involved if you need some sort of assistance in that way. If there's any problem, we will try and work that out as much as possible. We have rarely, and in my 5 years of doing this, I only know one case where a team was unable to compete because they failed inspections and could not get the problem resolved in time. So the inspections are really looking for safety hazards and reliability issues that may fail during robot runs. They're of course ensuring that the robots follow the rules, but they really try and get everybody to compete because that is the reason you're there. That's the reason we're there. And you do get a practice round at the end of an inspection and judging schedule from about 10 to 10:30. We'll get all the teams out there on the fields to have a go at it. All right, drivers meeting. The team drivers meet with the referees. The head referee explains the details about queuing, where you'll come in, how matches will run, along with any rule updates that the teams might have missed. Our head refs follow that forum and all those rule updates and are very clear on that and will answer any questions you have. This is also when the match schedule is distributed. Match schedule is not generated until after everyone passes inspections. So that's, so this is the first time that you or coaches or your spectators even will know when you're competing. And the match schedule doesn't have times on it, just the order of matches. So you have to kind of keep track of which match is currently running to be on time for yours. There's a queuing area for the next set of teams that will be set up, and we'll show where that is, and you will know how to get there. We'll have cuers that'll help you do that. And that will all be explained at the drivers meeting. During match pay, also pit judging will occur, as I said. Groups of judges will be visiting teams in the pit area and asking follow-up questions, things they wanted more information on, things that they weren't quite clear. And again, this is just them getting more information about you and your team to be able to give out awards to the proper teams. Match play takes precedence. So if you have a match going on, you do that. If you have a match coming up and the judges show up, just tell them that you've got a match at this time and you'll return later. But in between times you're competing, please try and make the team available for judge visits. So after you're done competing, don't just hang out and have the whole team hang out in the performance area where the judge can't get to you. If the judge can't get to you in these pit judging times, they won't be able to ask follow-up questions, and then it will again be difficult for them to give you an award because they don't have the information they need. Okay, after the matches are done around 3:30 or so, alliance selection starts, and we have the alliance matches, and that process is defined in the game manuals, and it's explained fairly carefully for all the teams at the day of. So I'm not really going to talk about it here. It's just another way to keep things going. Our award ceremony will proceed as soon as the finalist matches are completed and the judges have finished their award deliberations. Again, this is sometime around 5 o'clock, although we've been going a little bit earlier, 4:30 or so in the afternoon. Unlike past years, we will not have the teams come down and do the high five line through the officials that are there, the volunteers that are there. We'll just have them stand in the stands and they get the recognition and acknowledgement. Results from the tournament, all the matches and who did what and all that information, and also the awards will be available the next day on the First Inspires site. First has an Inspires website that has all the results on it, which is also linked on our webpage. Additionally, the teams that are advancing to state will be named. Now, from the tournaments on the 15th and 16th, 3 teams will advance to the state championship. From our qualifiers, starting in November, there are 6 teams that advanced out of those qualifiers. In December, it was 5 and 4. And this tournament, there are 3 teams advancing, which seems like a really low number. But at each of those tournaments, 6 or 7 teams have already advanced. And so these will be 3 more teams. We will, although I can't guarantee it, again, since I started here, we have always had the 3 Inspire winners and 3 winning Alliance teams that advanced to state. Even though it's only 3 teams total, teams that have already advanced are up in those groups. And we usually get into the Think and Connect and the finalist Alliance teams as well. So that advancement process has worked really well for us, of having less teams advance from in the later tournaments because they're more
Just pull it over.
Yeah.
And then from our league tournament, of course, on Saturday we'll have 7 teams out of the 24 advancing and 5 teams out of the 17 on Sunday. Now, league teams, for people that aren't league teams, this is their only qualifier. They don't have any other qualifier to possibly advance on. And this year, 41 of our 167 teams are league teams. So they've been doing match play, league meets throughout the season, but have not been judged or had a chance to advance until now. And since basically a quarter of our teams are league, they get a quarter of the slots at state. So they have 12 slots out of 48. And that's divided up on Saturday and Sunday based on the number of teams that are available on those days. All right. Are there any questions about the tournament day and kind of what goes on there and what's going to happen? Fields used, there's a question. Fields used during the last qualifier were different than typical. There was a small insert edge around the field. We use the same fields during state tournament. The fields used, there are 2 types of fields. There are anti-mark fields and VEX fields. The fields we use at our qualifiers are VEX fields because they are much sturdier. Teams can run into the walls and they don't move as much or anything like that. Yes, there's panels that hold the plastic in pieces. At state tournament, we will have all 4 fields. So we will have 2 VEX fields and 2 anti-mark fields. And you will compete on one or the other of those all day long. So you will alternate back and forth as to whether you're on a VEX field or anti-mark field. Same thing would be at Worlds if you go there. They use both anti-mark and VEX fields. Spectators are allowed. They will be able to sit in the gyms, watch the performance area and that, and be in whatever concession area and dining area and that kind of stuff they are. Yes, spectators are definitely allowed. They're just not allowed in the pits or obviously on the performance floor. They've never been on the performance floor, but we're also keeping them out of the pits this year. Other questions on the tournament day?
Hey, Norm, at the league tournaments, will the alliance selection be different on Saturday and Sunday based on the number of teams that'll be there?
Yes, good question, Ed. The alliance selection on Sunday will only have 2 teams in each of the 4 alliances. So 8 of the 17 teams will be on alliances, whereas on Saturday, 3 teams will be selected for the 4 alliance, so 12 out of the 24. And that's per the FTC rules. Anything less than 20 teams and you only have alliances of 2 teams.
Okay, thanks.
the rest of the process of alliance matches and everything runs exactly the same.
And Norm, will the inspection schedule be posted on the website? Because right now, I think for Saturday's tournament, it only lists the judging schedule for Saturday morning.
It has the same schedule as judging and inspections.
Oh, I didn't see it on the page, but I'll look again. Thanks.
Yeah, there
I
should
only
be,
saw the judging schedule as well when I looked at the website.
okay, for what tournament?
For the 15th,
Really? Okay,
usually there's a grid that shows all the different
Right.
inspections and everything, but right now it just shows a time slot for judging in the 4 stations.
okay, well, since I'm screen sharing, you should see this.
Yep.
The blue qualifier play schedule. Burnsville, Saturday. Judging and inspection schedule. And, oh, that is true. That is
Yep,
not
that's what I'm saying.
supposed to be there. Huh. Thank you very much for noticing that. That will be replaced very soon. That's not the schedule that's supposed to be there. Let me pull up what is supposed to be there. Come on, where are you? Tournaments, Burnsville Saturday. So what should be there is a grid that looks like this, which has all the teams and your judge and inspection times. They're basically spaced throughout the morning like this. I will update that as soon as this call is over. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. If you have other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I've got a little bit more to talk about. Or you can, of course, email me anytime, norm@hightechkids. So let's go on. So what else can teams be working on or doing? There is, of course, the Purple Gear Award, which is a High Tech Kids award given out to teams that do outreach not only within their community, but also for high tech kids. And you can note this in your portfolio. An engineering notebook is an award. If you go to the website, there is a form you fill out where you list your different activities, what you've done to help in your community, and we'll look at those applications every now and then and award teams a Purple Gear Award. There's a 3D printed trophy and certificate along with that. So far, 2 teams have done that this year, listed at the bottom of the screen there. Other teams are welcome to submit their information on that at any time. Secondly, for individuals, there's the Stratasys scholarships. There's 4 different categories of scholarships: coding, engineering, 3D printing, and project leadership. Students have to be a member of a Minnesota FTC team in the 10th or 11th grade. Winners are selected based on an online essay that they fill out. And by essay, I mean paragraph, 2 paragraphs, not anything more than that. And the winners will be announced at state and will be awarded a $250 scholarship. So please, if you have team members that are in those categories, have them self-nominate themselves for these awards. We still have a number of, we do not have as many nominees yet as we're able to give out awards. Let me put it that way. So if you've got students that are eligible or fit in these categories, please have them submit. And then, of course, besides organizing the program, I organize volunteers. So I need to do my shameless volunteer plug. We always need volunteers. the number of teams and tournaments we can have is truly limited by the number of volunteers we have. I'm, always kind of on the edge of who I can get to volunteer at tournaments. So if you're interested, if you know someone that's interested, please have them get in touch, have them volunteer. It's a great way for coaches to learn what goes on. I mean, if you want to see what the judges really judge on and what deliberations and that are, come and be a judge. Best way to learn. If you're interested in robots and helping teams, if you want to be that robot dad type who wants to actually, work on robots, but you're refraining and being very good and not doing that for your team, come and work on the field and be an FTA. You can help teams when they have problems on the field. It's a great little job. Same thing, referees. We need everybody. And if your team reaches out to companies as part of their outreach, they can obviously ask for volunteers from the companies too, or suggest that. We'd really like to grow our volunteer pool. It's a good group of people and we'd like to keep it up and be able to continue to offer tournaments that we have. Okay, so that's pretty much what I have. We can, if you have other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or unmute and you can ask. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you all coaches again for coming. It's nice to see you all. You can see me as well here now. I look forward to seeing you at tournaments. And please, are there any questions? If there's nothing else, then thank you all for coming this evening. And I look forward to seeing you at tournaments. Good luck and have a great time.